Arranging your music isn't easy, and it can almost always improve with a second set of ears. So in this video today, I'm going to take a client project that's in front of me now, and I'm going to listen over the arrangement and give some tips and tricks to improve it where we can, and just give it that final little polish. So first of all, let's take a quick listen to the project so we know what we're working with. Okay, so it's very deep, very underground. Nice track. I'm going to go back to the start of it. And I'm going to work just from left to right as you would in any arrangement, and hopefully gives you some nuggets that you can go away with and implement in your own music. Let's crack on with it, starting from the beginning. One of the things I do see a lot with my clients is you can see this client when I've taught him to have something melodic in there. A lot of people that come to me start their tracks just like this with drums. That's just boring in my opinion. It doesn't set the scene of the track. When we've got a piece of interest, is what I call this, to really set the scene, it makes things flow a little bit smoother. So we started with this melodic. Very nice start. I think this could be improved a little bit in the intro, just with a little double kick somewhere. While we've got no bass line, we can afford that low end to be in there. So I'm just going to have that double kick, just one of them like that. And then, yeah, let's keep going. So at this stage, I'm feeling like we could have lifted the energy a little bit to lead us into the drop when the bass comes in. Right now, I feel like it's a little bit bland on this intro. Remember, as we're mixing this out as DJs, you want some energy to be lifting in your intro so that as you bring the fader up, you can feel the energy like lifting before the bass changes. I'm going to go ahead and just go and get his open hat that he's used later on in the project and put it in this section here at bar 6, at the end of bar 16. But with this hat, I'm going to flatten it. Basically, the project's frozen because when the client sent it to me, he uses different plugins to me and stuff. I'm going to shorten the transient on this one so it just turns it into a little... very subtle. The real hat over here sounds like this. A bit bigger. So it might be a little bit difficult, this, because it's already quite a small hat. Are there any loops or anything he's used that we could implement in this section? Maybe that hat's not going to work. Maybe if we shorten it even more. We'll try it. The energy lifts a little bit more there. Prefer it. Okay, so to introduce that bass line, I think I want to, it's a little bit random when that bass line drops. I don't think it's a big issue, but I think it can be improved slightly. What I'm thinking is maybe doing some like kicks, a little kick in, and then into the drop. And then let's do some like 32s at the end here. I'm going to stick an auto filter on this channel, and we're going to bring in the kick slowly, like this. Yeah, like that. I like it. Also, I'll do some ultimate changes on the velocity down here. Nice. So we want to automate this frequency now. Automation is probably it. In fact, it is the most important part of your song when we're arranging, to be honest. Now, notice I don't go all the way down to the bottom with this automation here. Why? Because I want the kick when it comes in there, when we turn this auto filter off and the real kick's playing, we want that to be more prominent than the kind of effect kicks we're putting before that drop. So I'm going to right click on that, show automation now, and just go ahead and turn that off. A bit more of an intro into that bass line there. So sometimes what I like to do a lot is have my bass line, have it like an intro bass. But for this style of song, I think I'm going to leave it as it is. I think it sounds good now. The only other thing I would look to do here is you can see he's got some effects in this project. I would have maybe put this effect on this drop. Remember, this first drop is just as important as any others because a lot of DJs will drop your project then. So don't neglect it. That's better, a bit smoother. Okay, I'm taking this last kick out here. That's better. So whenever I bring in something in that has contrast, I like to have something happen just before that contrast, okay? So that's why I saw that this kick was still in. I think it's a bit bland when we keep it playing, that kick, watch. I think it sounds better like this with a slight gap. Way more interesting. Now what I'm doing as I go along here is I'm listening to the contrast that's every 8 bars. Pretty much when I'm arranging a song, I want something to be changing or a bit of a shift in energy every single 8 bars. Some people do it where they change something every 16 bars, but for me, I like to make it feel like something's constantly progressing in the song. I think it can give a professional feeling to the song when something changes. And it doesn't need to be drastic changes, but we need to feel something has changed between the sections. Again, I feel like a change in this kick here. The kick, when we're making a bit more stripped back music like this, changes in the kick can really elevate the project. I'm actually going to go and copy the little kick groove that we made up there. Oops. Need to make sure we copy it and not like that. And see what happens if I add this here. Just, again, it gives us this kind of feeling of professionalism that the artist knows what he's doing. Slight changes make the world a difference. Now what I'm going to do is go back here a second, and the reason for that is I didn't tune into the contrast here. I can see he's bringing elements in, but I want to go back a little bit and see, did it make a real difference when the elements came in? We're just on the borderline there of a change. You can hear it brings some effects in and stuff. Is it enough? I think so for now. Let's continue. Just about there. So this is the break. Okay, so we definitely need to develop this break a little bit, in my opinion. I think it could be way more interesting. So going back to the start of the break, the first thing I'm going to change is he brings in some synths and weird sounds. It's like an acid sound. This, okay. So the way he's bringing it in is with an auto filter. I'm going to up the resonance so we actually hear them deeper tones when it's filtered off. So what I like to do is introduce elements slowly. I'm going to chop out little bits of this. So we're just hearing a tiny bit of it first. Let's go back again and hear it. Nice. So we've introduced that a little bit slower now. I like the drop in energy here before we drop it again, but what I'm lacking is a build up into this last part. Also, this effect that he's got here could have a lot more feedback on the echo device down here. We really want our effects in this genre to be tailing off for a while. So he's done a half step there. I'm going to go down a little bit. I want it like... And I'm going to ping pong that and put the dry wet out. So I want a hell of a lot going on here. Ooh, better. So it just sounds like it randomly drops. We need to tell the listener in the arrangement kind of when to anticipate a change. So if we're getting towards the end of a breakdown, you don't want to just leave it dry and drop like this. Sometimes you can get away with it. Do I think this is terrible? Absolutely not. It definitely can be improved though. I'm going to get stuck into my sample library here and just have a little look what we have in here to do some kind of effect or sweep. For things like this, I just think Splice or what's the other one, Loop Cloud are just so much more versatile for stuff like this. I think are very limited in sample packs with stuff like that. Risers. I really want like white noise, really. That's all I want. That's a nice reverse crash. I've obviously used that in a project before. Drop it down here. Is there anything more interesting though? Let's drag it in. I'll try the white noise first and see if we need something more interesting after. Oh, it landed perfectly on the spot. So this is going to have to be quite low, and let's see. Yeah, not sure on that. Where did the other one go that I originally had in? There it is. That might be a bit better. That's better. Okay, so whenever I'm adding an effect, I always like to duplicate it and then reverse it. That gives us this more of an effect like it's a little bit like a crash. When we do an effect like this and we just leave it like this, you can hear how abrupt it stops. So we fill up all the top end with all this white noise. And if we don't let it tail off, it just feels like too much of an abrupt change. Remember, we want to make all of our transitions and changes into different sections of the song very smooth. It gives us, again, a professional polish. So I'm going to reverse this by right-click reversing clip. And we could have done this with some echo. We could have echoed it off, but I'll try it like this first. And then I will need to automate a utility to get it really fitting in the track. I like to automate these myself. So I'm going to go up, but then have this one a bit lower than on the drop. So and let it come down. Okay. I think that can go on for longer, actually. Let's see. Lovely. I'm actually going to go ahead and add some echo on this too. So we get a nice tail to that sound. And again, when you wash it out like this and let it tail off for a long time, it just feels like the two sections of the song are more connected. I'm going to go to a similar one we did earlier. Let's see what it sounds like. Better. Just to show you what that sounded like before again. Doesn't have the same impact, does it, with this? Better. So again, I feel like we could get more interesting with this kick rather than just having it just taking them out all the time. if you want to take them out, we can do that on the mixer when you're playing it, right? So let's add some weird and wonderful stuff going on here. I'll just get the rhythm. Maybe just double here. Maybe just on the end. No, don't like that. So yeah, that's better. Okay, same again. Going to use the automation on the auto filter. Do not neglect these things, guys. I promise you that they do make a bigger difference than you think. And again, I'm going to affect the frequency range of it. Like so. I don't want to go too high with this, so we still hear the kick. There we go. Cool. So what am I not hearing in this section? Well, I'm not hearing the contrast that I mentioned earlier. I'm going to go back to this bar 73 here and just hear when it changes. Okay, so I can hear slightly in the background that we've got something that changes here. I can also see it. Let's hear what they sound like. That just ain't gonna do it for us. That is not going to lift the energy. I see what my client here has tried to do, but that just is not going to do it enough for us. What we do have space for in this song, and this is the way you should be thinking about it in the arrangement, because of course you can get your loop amazing, but you're probably likely still going to need to add stuff during the arrangement. And the way I will think like this is in ranges. Do I have any space in the low end to put something else in? Do I have any space in the mid-range to put something else in? That would be things like percussion or snares, things like that. Or do I have any space in the top end? Now, in this track, he's got a very closed open hat. I know that doesn't make too much sense, but the open hat is a closed hat, okay? So I think there's space to fill out the top end with a bit more frequency, which I think the client has tried to do, but he's done it with a shaker. It just is not doing it justice. I'm just going to have a quick go at adding a bigger open hat in the project, see if it works. If it doesn't, we'll move on very, very quickly and try something else. But the way I heard that, just to reiterate one more time, is I heard the space for a bigger open hat in the project. So I'm going to go to my hats. Of course, any samples that I use like this are for free to download in the description. Remember that. These exact racks that I use. Oops. And remember, as I do this, guys, if you want my help, if you want me to work on your projects one-on-one like this, usually it's on a live call over Zoom. Check out the link in the description. You can book a free call with me to discuss your goals and see how I can help you. So, this open hat, let's go. Wow. Let's go. Now, I don't want to make it too techno-y. Just going to start scrolling through. I want it to be subtle, but a slight lift in energy. When I'm listening for open hats, I'm never worried about how long they are because I can always shorten them. But if they're too short, I can't make them longer. Okay, so this is nice and airy and not much to it. That kind of fits, right? I'm going to go back and listen to that come in and see if it's making a nice difference. I think that works a lot. Now, there's this synth sound that he's brought in too, which is gorgeous, but a little bit quiet in the mix. So I'm going to leave that open hat running now, I think. I think it works quite well. Add some reverb to it. Make this louder. Now, to make this video a little bit shorter rather than watching the whole track, I'm going to get stuck into the main break. You can see the method here. The method here is to take away that every 8 bars I want to hear some clear contrast, and don't just take kicks out and put them back in. There's much more interesting things we can do with that, and make sure that your effects have tails. They are the main things that we've done so far, but I want to listen to this breakdown and just see if there's anything we can improve on it. Let's dial this hat in a little bit more. Sometimes I like to do a pretend fake build like this. So I'm going to take the crash or riser that I had earlier and put it just before we fade off into all of the drums out here, because it can give this kind of fake drop feeling, which is really nice. And because this is now echoing off for so long, the space in the mix that got created by dropping out all of these drums gets filled with something else. Watch. Better, you see, if I turn them off, again, sounds a little bit too random. So let's keep going. I'm hearing a crash could happen there. I don't know why, it just goes with the rhythm and it's what came to mind. Something that I've been focusing on a lot with my clients lately is that when you watch tutorials online, my tutorials in communities, whatever you watch to help you learn, what gets neglected to be taught by other tutors out there is the fact that people are hearing stuff in their head before doing it. Most artists, respectable artists, let's say we're writing a bass line and you see them come into the MIDI clip and they start clicking about and putting notes in, and you think that they're just kind of exploring options randomly until something clicks. That's not really the whole truth. What gets neglected to be said is that they're hearing a bass line in their musical brain first, then getting it out on paper. So why I'm saying this is, notice when we got into this main break and I said you could have a crash there. I heard that first. I didn't guess or go, I'm just going to try a crash. I heard it happening in my head. And that is a skill that needs to be learned over time. You can't just have that skill when you start making music. You need to develop it. The only way you develop it is by practicing it. So as you're listening to your music, don't just listen to it objectively. Listen to it while humming out loud and doing what I just said, and then trying to replicate that rather than just kind of guessing your way through a project. Again, if that's something you need help with, just click the link in the description and you can book a free call with me to discuss your goals. So the crash, let's take a look if we can find one. I think just a basic 909 crash would do us. I don't think it needs to be anything amazing. Guys, don't sleep on these kits from Ableton. They're amazing. They are... I can't remember which one has quite a cool crash in it, but we'll find it. No. Definitely not this. Okay, it was the 707 kit that has a crash in it. That's got so much mid-range and low end then, though. I'm just going to stick an EQ on straight away and take out the low end. Super loud. So I'm going to do what I heard in my head. I'm not going to guess this. I'm going to play it again and I'm going to then replicate what was in my brain. There. So it's in this part here. Put a MIDI clip in. It was like that, actually. That's what I heard. Okay, so let's have a look. And I heard a sweep going up into it, so let's do it very, very sharp just before them. Yeah, and now let's affect that. So again, same thing with effects. I nearly always do the same on effects, some delay. This time, we want to make sure it's nice and synced to the grid because a crash is a drum element, so we want to make sure it's not kind of sounding strange and having a weird rhythm to it. So we're definitely on this one want less dry wet and less feedback. I'm probably going to sync it on notes instead of dotted rhythms. And I am going to ping pong it. Can't really hear much happening. Let's get more feedback, more dry wet. Better. Could we go quarter notes? Yeah, quarter notes. Cool, let's go with that. I definitely think that a build up in this tune could have sounded better, to be honest. Okay, this one now, I actually think like that would sound better. Yeah, let's extend this over. Consolidate it so I can see all of the MIDI. And then okay, so he's got a snare roll in the background there. Maybe we could have had that snare roll a little bit shorter and created more of a build. You know, this is the main part of the song. We need to spend a little bit more time, care and attention here. So where is that snare roll that he's created? 808 snare, it sounds like that. See if we could maybe... So to test this, rather than wasting a ton of time creating this crazy snare roll and having to put auto filter on it and all of that stuff, I will always test first. Test your ideas first. So I'm going to go over and find a sample loop. Maybe the sample loop will stay. Maybe I won't replace it with something else. But in my mind now, I'm hearing more of an 808 or a 909 snare building up. So I'm going to go and find a sound on Splice or Loop Cloud. This is why it's so powerful to have this like Splice or Loop Cloud, because it's just so easy to go and grab any sample you want. Any idea that you've got in mind, there will be something on Splice for it. So I'm going to go and get a snare roll. We could even do like 909 snare roll. And rather than wasting ages making something that doesn't work, no. Right, so of course, that is probably not going to work, but at least it gives me an idea of whether a snare roll will even work in this project at all, right? Because it's just an idea right now. I don't actually know if it's going to work. So I'm going to lower it all the way down, so it's just subtle in the background. Okay, and what that shows me, what that tells me, is that a snare roll will work. I know that doesn't sound perfect, but now I can spend my time implementing a snare roll that does work rather than just guessing it's going to work, wasting ages trying to make it work and it didn't in the first place. Samples can be used as a tool like that. Now, I'm not going to create that build. This video is already well long enough, but as always, YouTube recommends this video appear next. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, book a free call in the description now and we'll have a chat about your goals and see how I can help you. Thanks for watching.